It's been a little while since I've done a Sew the Look video for you, and as it's mid-September at the moment, I thought I'd do a Sew the Boden Look video for you. So here goes. For those of you who don't know, Boden is a quintessential British clothes manufacturing company who have a little bit of a twist on the normal clothes. So that might be fabrics, designs, etc., but it's always quintessentially British. So let's jump in and look at my first garment from Boden. The first garment I chose really caught my eye, and it's a pair of wide-legged tartan trousers. The thing I did notice looking at the autumn offerings from Boden is it seems that this season's fabrics from Boden seem to be tartan, corduroy and suede or suedette. So bear that in mind when you're doing your fabric shopping this season. So yeah, let me pop up a photograph of the tartan trousers that I found on the Boden website. Now, as you can see, they're very wide legs in a nice kind of bright tartan. I think they might be wool tartan. But of course, if you were to buy wool polyester tartan, nobody would know, and they'd be an awful lot cheaper. Patterns that sprung to mind when I saw this pair of trousers were the Just pants and the Marette pants from Seamwork, and the Albi pants and the Spencer pants from Style Arc. So each of the patterns that I've just chosen are wide leg pants. They vary slightly in their design, in that some of them have an elasticated waist, some of them have a waistband with a fly, etc. But generally the shape of the trouser is very reminiscent of the Boden trousers that I've just showed to you. So yes, I think if you decided upon one of those patterns and used a tartan polyester wool fabric, there's quite a lot of different tartan patterns on the market as well, and stuck to the wide leg, you could obviously lengthen the Just pants because they are designed to come just at the ankle. And you might want to take the bottom seam, there's a hem facing on the Albi pants, you might want to just lengthen the legs so it's one continuous line for the leg. But I think that any of those patterns will recreate the tartan trousers nicely. Next garment that caught my eye was a black and white Dogtooth collared jacket. I immediately thought of either the Harriet jacket from Style Arc or the Delphine jacket from Style Arc, mainly because it's a jacket that's got a collar, kind of a collar like a shirt collar almost, and buttons down the front, but it's quite a boxy jacket with long sleeves. It's not kind of a blazer type jacket at all. It is very much a boxy collared jacket. So the Delphine and the Harriet were the two I thought of instantly. Both the Harriet and Delphine are lined. The Harriet has just a plain back. The Delphine has princess lines down the back. But I think if you're looking for a jacket that emulates the Boden jacket here, you're looking for a lined jacket with a bit of tailoring. So I think those two jackets really fit the bill. I think black and white houndstooth or dogtooth is quite a classic fabric, and I think if you were to look online and find a nice woolen blend or a wool fabric that was black and white houndstooth, you could recreate the Boden jacket really easily. Moving on to one of Boden's favourite fabrics this year, it's corduroy. And this corduroy dress is a button-through dress with long sleeves and a collar. It's a classic shirt dress, as my mum would call it. I had to look quite carefully at both Seamwork and Style Arc for a pattern that matched up to this. And bearing in mind that Seamwork and Style Arc have hundreds of patterns in their catalogues between them, it was quite a difficult pattern to come up with. I did eventually settle on the Tartan dress and the Christina woven dress, and both of those are from Style Arc. So if I quickly tell you about the design details of both these dresses, the Christina is a button-through dress. It has a collar, long sleeves and cuffs, but it also has a waist treatment, and it's got sort of an inset at the front and at the back. So it's not exactly the same as the Boden dress. The Tartan dress is button through. It does have a collar. I'm just looking at my screen over here actually, and it does have cuffs, but the dress is panelled, and it does have a yoke at the front and at the back with a back kind of piece to it. So I think out of the two, the Christina is probably the closest fit to the Boden design that I've just showed to you. Okay, so moving on to from a green dress to a pair of green cord trousers. These really caught my eye. I think the model's wearing them with a kind of a polo necked or collared sweater. But the green cord is a real, it looks like it's one of the fabrics that Boden is really running with this season. So they're a wide-legged pair of trousers in green cord, and they're pleated and have very wide legs. So the two patterns I chose for this design are the Marette trousers from Seamwork and the Spencer trousers from Stylark. Now these two patterns do differ slightly in their design features. The Spencer has welt pockets and pleats, like I just said. The Spencer also has a fly zip at the front. The Marette trousers do have pleats, but they seem to be in a drapier kind of fabric, and I think the legs are slightly wider in relation to the Spencer trousers. So probably Spencer are your best bet here, and you don't even have to make the welt pocket. You can just put patch pockets on the back. You can borrow them from another pattern, so you could borrow them from the Albi, for example. But I would be looking at a softer fabric than chunky cord. I'd be looking at maybe soft needle cord for this pattern, so you get the feeling of cord but not the bulk. Okay, a top for you now. It's this lovely caramel buttoned shouldered sweater. I knew immediately which pattern would fit the bill here. I chose the Callan sweater from Seamwork, but I also added the sleeves there from the member bonus. So with Seamwork, you do get a member bonus for one pattern of the month each month. And for the Callan, you can change the wide sleeves for a nice slim sleeve. You wouldn't have to put buttons on both shoulders like the Callan has. You could just put it on one. But if you're doing one, you might as well do two. In a nice caramel or camel shade of French terry, this would be a really, really good dupe. Okay, so we're back on tartan from Boden. Tartan just seems to be popping up all over the place, or I saw it popping up all over the place. Next we have a nice tartan shirt, which is a gathered shirt onto a yoke. Now luckily the pattern I chose for this is the Ames pattern, and this is currently free for anybody to download. You don't have to be a Seamwork member. You can download it if you want to try a Seamwork pattern out. Slightly different in the fact that the yoke for the Ames is a bit lower at the front and lower at the back, but it does gather into that yoke nicely, and it has kind of just a little collar stand on the neckline there. So I think for tartan that would really look nice, because there's not too many design features, because obviously tartan's a very busy fabric. And if you're matching the fabric, matching the plaid, it'd be quite difficult to do. So you don't want lots and lots and lots of complicated seams and design features. So the Ames blouse from Seamwork, I think, fits the bill nicely for the tartan blouse. My next Sew the Look from Boden, I had a bit of a problem finding a pattern that was exactly similar, or even a really good match. I had two patterns that I could choose from. It was either the Ulla dress from Seamwork or the Jerry pinafore from Stylark. Now, both of these patterns, they're different. The patterns are completely different in themselves. They are pinafore dresses, but I don't think they're close enough really to the actual Boden design. The Boden design is a V-necked pinafore that buttons down the front, and it's just single-breasted. But the other is a double-breasted design, so you've got 2 sets of buttons. So that's possibly the closest in terms of the silhouette, but you could, I guess, redraft the front of the other slightly so that you only have 1 set of buttons, so it's single-breasted. The Jerry pinafore from Style Arc is a single-breasted with buttons down the front, but it's got princess lines. So princess seams down the front, it's a princess line dress. So because the original Boden design is in corduroy pops up yet again, I would think that the other is the best pattern to recreate it, because I think you'd be losing an awful lot of the cord in the seams, and perhaps those seams might be a little bit bulky. So I think you want more of a plain design for the corduroy. Again, I would be looking at, if you're going to make this yourself or replicate it yourself, I would be looking at baby cord again, because I actually think that a thicker wale cord would be far too thick for both these patterns. Now for my next Boden design. When I saw this skirt, I almost jumped out of my chair. It's literally my favourite skirt of all time that I can match to this design. As you can see, it's a tartan skirt, but it's been cut on the bias. So the tartan kind of goes diagonally, if you like, the design, instead of in straight lines down and across. And the pattern that I would recommend to recreate this Boden design is the Genoa skirt from Style Arc. Now I must have made this skirt about 5 times, I think. I've always made it in rayon challis or viscose challis, or in chambray, which is quite a light fabric. But I think if you made it in a polyester viscose suiting or tartan, or a polyester and wool fine tartan, then you'd be absolutely fine. You'd want something where the tartan's not a massive design, because the checks kind of are quite small, not small, but a kind of medium-sized design on the Boden skirt. You don't want a huge check. And I think if you use the Genoa skirt, which is cut on the bias, you'd get a really, really good replica of this skirt, and you'd save yourself a huge amount of money. The Genoa skirt does have an elasticated waist. The elastic is overlocked straight onto the skirt itself, so there's nothing fiddly about it. So a beginner could actually replicate this skirt really easily. Now for my next Boden design, these cream wide leg trousers. Again, literally the patterns popped into my head just like that, like the Genoa skirt did. My 2 patterns that I would recommend for these trousers are either the seam work Chelsea jeans or the seam work Noah pants. So both of these patterns have a fly zip at the front and a waistband, but they have a slimish leg that then kicks out at the bottom. The Chelsea jeans are quite pronounced the way they flare, so you might want to take that flare slightly further up and grade yourself out so you get a nice gentle flare. But the Noah trousers I think are a really, really good pattern to duplicate these cream trousers. And I don't know quite what fabric they're in, but I'd be looking at sort of twill, a lightweight twill, because obviously you've got the wide leg and you don't want them sticking out too much, but a nice lightweightish twill canvas, or possibly a cream denim will be really, really good in both these patterns. The Chelsea pattern has kind of patch pockets on the front, very much like the Joss pants, So they do look a little bit more casual because the Noahs have welt pockets at the front and patch pockets at the back. So they look a little bit more polished. And of course, if you don't want to do your welt pockets, you don't have to do them. You can just do your back pockets and stick with simplicity. My next design from Boden is another top. It's another caramel top. It's different from the previous one I showed you. In fact, this top has a polo type of placket and collar. So I think this type of collar treatment is kind of making an appearance this season. I found two patterns for you. I found the seam work cove and the style arc raft pattern. They're so similar that it's almost the same pattern from both pattern companies. Each pattern has a placket with a collar. I think the only difference is that the raft has a short sleeve and a long sleeve, so you could choose between the two there. And I think the raft would look better made up in something like a cotton lycra, or a baby ponte, so a lighter fabric. And the cove from Seamwork could be made in a cotton lycra, but you could also make it in a scuba or a ponte or a heavier French terry, for example. But both of these patterns are really good for replicating this Boden design. Next is an absolute classic from Boden, a Stripey Breton top. Now, I've got lots and lots of suggestions for you, but I'm going with the Alice top from Seamwork, which is just a round neck, long sleeve top, really straightforward. You can make that in cotton lycra or viscose jersey, for example, cotton viscose jersey, for example. Or you could use the LST from Style Arc. Now, I'm wearing the LST at the moment. I've made it up again in navy and white stripes. This is the boat neck version, but there is a round neck version and a V-neck version with long or short sleeves. So it's a really multifunctional pattern. I made this in a slightly heavier cotton, and I think it's only got one-way stretch. It stretches horizontally across my body anyway, and it doesn't have any vertical stretch. But this is almost a replica of a Stripey Breton top. So yeah, both patterns, you could use both patterns that I just mentioned, although a Breton top is slightly heavier, so I'd be going for the Ellis top rather than the Alice top. I have another dress to show you. This is a blue shift dress from Boden. The pattern I chose here is the Inez dress from Style Arc. So the Inez pattern has a round neck, shift dress lines, it has short sleeves, and it has a seam sort of on the low waist and also pocket flaps. There aren't any pockets, they're just flaps. But it does give a really good representation of the Boden dress because it's got very straight lines and it's a shift dress with simple design features. The Inez pattern is made for knits, so I think something like scuba crepe or a Liverpool would be a really good fabric for this dress. You don't want anything too light like a cotton lycra, but not anything too heavy like a scuba. A nice light scuba crepe would also add some texture to the dress in a nice kind of bluebell colour like the Boden dress is shown in. And for my final pattern choice, I have the Leonora skirt from Seamwork to replicate this button through skirt from Boden. We've got the tartan popping up again, literally tartan, cord and suedes all over the Boden catalogue this season, like I said. So yeah, the tartan button through skirt I think is a really good example of what Boden have on offer. I think you could make this in a sort of heavier wool fabric, a heavier tartan wool fabric with button through the front and a waistband. And it really encapsulates all that is Boden. To replicate the Boden skirt, more authentically, you wouldn't put the front pockets onto the Leonora skirt, and you probably wouldn't do that extended waistband with a little kind of point on it. You'd probably want to keep a straight front, but the Leonora has a back yoke, and I think it replicates this Boden skirt really, really well. That's all for me this week. Let me know if you have any patterns that you'd like to recommend to duplicate Boden patterns. See you all soon. Bye.